And so the topic today is inside the MAGA gay closet. It's the same Republican gay closet we've seen, except, you know, the as with everything else in the Trump era, they have kind of openly accepted that they have all these closet cases and openly accepted that they're even more overtly anti-LGBTQ. I mean, the Trump administration has, in the first administration as well as in the second administration, stripped rights for queer people in just terrible ways, right? Of course, the first military ban on transgender people, now the second military ban, all the healthcare rollbacks for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, removal of guidance in the schools under Title IX for trans students. Of course, all the Supreme Court briefs, the Supreme Court justices he put on the court who are stripping our rights, allowing discrimination in public accommodations. The suicide hotline for queer teens just stripped. Um, Defining gender as, a man and a woman, just really what we've seen to transgender people, horrific stuff, and all the DEI stuff, which has affected schools across the country, which, by the way, has affected film festivals, queer film festivals across the country, any cultural issues. All of it's been affected. So it's affected the broad swath of the community. Um, we just saw today, I mean, for all these log cabin people who tell us that, you know, this is a pro-gay administration. We just saw today the news that Kash Patel, the FBI director, fired a field employee of the FBI in the field office because he had a pride flag on his desk a year ago during the Biden administration. I mean, this is McCarthyism on steroids, right? And now FBI employees are searching their desks, searching their social media, searching everything for anything that can remotely show anything queer or any allegiance to any identity that Trump is attacking. So, all of that. And then, of course, you have these out MAGA people, mostly gay men, Richard Grenell, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, but they're doing the covering, right, for all these other people. And just in the last, week or two, we really saw a lot of things come to the surface. Benny Johnson, the right-wing podcaster, Keith Edwards, progressive gay podcaster, did a whole expose on him and how he had apparently had involvements with men and all of this evidence he brought forth that he's gay. And then Joe has been noting now how he's becoming, like much more alpha male as he's trying to prove he's not gay on his podcast, right? And so, yeah, that, and of course, we have seen, I wrote about it, and we'll get into it, but more happening on Capitol Hill that, now we have the British tabloid, the Daily Mail, doing some of the digging, right, and getting some of the stuff out there. But also, even Tucker Carlson pointed to those military, those pro-war closeted gays, like, we know he's talking about, right? And we've talked about Lindsey Graham forever and Tim Scott and Tom Cotton. And, then those two great women, that new podcast, I've Had It, which is a big hit, they were outing Marco Rubio, which we all were doing ages ago. So, yeah. And that was quite a time. And all that stuff is still out there. I'm glad they're refreshing our memory. So Joe Sudbay, host of State of the States on Sirius XM Progress, and of course, guest host my show there as well. And Pam Spaulding, Pam's House Blend, a veteran. I want you all to jump in with your thoughts. Pam, you've been doing a lot of research on all of this and putting a lot of stuff on social media.
Yeah, I'm only at this time on Blue Sky, and very busy on there. And I had to tell you, with that news about the FBI is really stunning because, as you know, you wrote the book. It's not over, right? We have rolled back so fast and so hard that kind of stuff is going on at the federal government level. and
Like,
nothing is and nothing. Do you hear anything really about it? And there's no outrage on the Hill about it because there's so many things. It's an avalanche of things across the board. But it is. You're almost nostalgic that we can out somebody once a week. There's some, gay hypocrite. There's some crime where there's some, child predator out there that is a MAGA supporter. I mean, it's endless. And the fact is that I wonder, Benny Johnson, I haven't heard anything in their community talking about Benny Johnson being outed. Because I stay on the subreddit, the conservative subreddit. It's like dead silence about
oh, really?
Epstein. Oh, they've gone dead silence on that.
You
They've gone
monitor a lot of those, huh?
Yes, I'm on there. Like I used to go to the Free Republic when I was on the Blend and see what they're talking about. And before they would get really hot and bothered about LGBTQ stuff. And they are moderating it, not in that they support anything, but they don't want to talk about it. They'd rather talk about the litany of other things, primarily immigration, try and defend the shutdown. All of those kinds of things rise to the top. So to see some of this stuff go silent is definitely different than before. When you had the Family Research Council and James Dobson, they were out there all the time. And those figures aren't there anymore. So it's gotten mainstreamed to an extent. Oh, and did you notice that under Trump 1 or Trump 2, where are the lesbians?
Hmm. Oh, yeah. I think
There's
they
no
had
lesbians.
one a while ago.
Tammy Bruce, right? Is she at the
Oh,
Pentagon?
yeah, she's
That's
Marco
that's
Rubio's spokesperson.
right.
There's a
Oh
good
my
there's a
God.
duo right there.
Right.
Talk about a beard.
Oh my God. Oh, it's yeah.
Yeah, the Benny
That was
Johnson
Tim Scott
story,
one.
that Benny Johnson story, I think just, part of it that, he's a prominent podcaster becoming more prominent. And now with Charlie Kirk gone, he's a voice, a bigger voice they go to. He, of course, had the FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, on when he made the infamous remarks to pull down, to ABC. They better do something. We can do it the hard way. We could do it the easy way or the hard way. Get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. And now, I mean, a lot of the stuff that Keith Edwards brought out about him has been out there, but like he put it all together. The very noted queer poet and author Saeed Jones talked about making out with Benny Johnson in the closet or in a storeroom at a BuzzFeed Christmas party. Said other men did as well. Also, Benny Johnson like didn't realize, I guess, that there were cookies online. And so he actually once lashed out at a conservative website for having gay ads on their site. But it turned out that no, those were ads populating on his browser from where he visited before, which was a gay site, right? So there's a lot of that stuff. And there's more that, he brought forth about him. I think Milo, right? Remember Milo, the
Oh,
original alt-right guy, who now I guess went through conversion therapy or whatever. But, he talked about Benny Johnson making out and having sex with um, these young Turning Point USA students at Turning Point USA events. And I think he said something like, they knew him as BJ, Benny Johnson, and that's how they left that room knowing him, right? So there's a lot out there. And then Joe's been tracking what he's been doing.
Oh my god, he is obsessed with Bad Bunny. Now look, I think there's a lot of reasons to be obsessed with Bad Bunny. He's an amazing performer, and he's stunning, and he's so, pro LGBTQ, always has been, but Benny's really, really, really mad that Bad Bunny's gonna be at the Super Bowl. I mean, so there you have it, the most masculine
And
event.
good for the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, good for the Super Bowl. You know what's so maddening about this, and this is something the three of us have talked about for decades now, and Mike, really, literally the pioneer on so much, is What drives me crazy, even this week when you posted your piece on Substack, I noticed I got some attention on Blue Sky, but not as much. And I still feel like there's this mindset that, like, the New York Times every year, like clockwork, does a story on the Republican gays. I remember it very well from 20 years ago because I might have met someone who I was hooking up with who wouldn't was very secretive about what they did for work. So I thought, oh, maybe they're in Intel or they're a spy or something. I thought that was
Right.
cool. Then I saw a New York Times article and his picture was in it because he was one of the gay Republicans. That story they run every year. They did it again a few weeks ago. That was too much information, I know, but they did it a few weeks ago. And there was a story about how they're mostly out, mostly. Now, there are reporters all over DC, I am sure, who have been at events with closeted gay Republicans and probably their boyfriends and have seen it. The article from the Daily Mail talked about Butterworths. This is apparently this place the MAGA crowd likes to hang out with. It's a very elite kind of place. They see it. They know it. Reporters go there.
And a lot of the guys are sex workers that Daily Mail talked about who have relationships with these closeted members of Congress and Republicans.
Yeah, and what drives me crazy, my rule has always been, look, I don't care what you do in your private life as long as it's safe and consenting and legal. Have fun. But once you decide that my private life and my sex life and my body are fair game for you politically, your private life becomes fair game too. But that standard does not apply in the media in DC. I know there are reporters who must have been at events with
Oh,
Lindsay
they know.
and others, and maybe some of them have even hooked up with them. I don't know, but I'm just saying they treat it so differently because then all of a sudden it's privacy. I remember when we helped break the Jeff Gannon story about 20 years ago on.
Oh boy.
Jeff Gannon was, for anyone who doesn't know, was a White House reporter getting a lot of attention in the White House briefing room, asking a lot of questions. I think it was Media Matters said, "Who is this guy?" Started digging. I was writing on America Blog. One of our readers wrote and said, "Actually, I photographed his porn site. He was a male porn star. More power to him, right?" But so that story broke, and all of a sudden there was just silence. You could tell the DC kind of political media did not know how to cover it because, and I think it's a little bit of, they don't want to appear homophobic, but then there's also the privacy issue. And they grant privacy to these hypocrites who are taking away our rights, even as they will report on these hypocrites taking away our rights. And it drives me crazy.
Well, and Joe, you were getting at something a little bit earlier that I just want to elevate a little bit. That when you put my piece about the gay sex scandal, in quotes, that was rocking Washington from Substack, my Substack piece online, that you didn't get a lot of pickup as you usually do. And that happened to me too. And it happens whenever I do these things. When Tucker Carlson said what he said, and then I write about that, or the Benny Johnson, it doesn't get pickup. But Keith Edwards, when he did the Benny Johnson piece, if you go to his actual YouTube page, it had within 24 hours almost 500,000 views. But if you look online at sharing, it wasn't shared a lot. I can tell you that I have thousands more views of the piece I wrote than most pieces that I write. And yet the shares on social media is way less than most pieces I write. So people are privately sending it to each other, right? Or they're calling each other up or whatever, but they're not sharing. And it gets to beyond the media, the sort of, so-called liberals who are our friends on social media. They don't really want to share it either. They don't want to be seen as sharing that. There's still this idea, except for the queer people who get it, there's still this idea you shouldn't do that. And that goes back to, I mean, Pam, we all dealt with this way back. That's still there, it seems.
And yes, and if you think about it, look, I watched Outrage again, the
Oh, wow.
documentary from 2009, and it really brought back a lot of memories. But one of the clips was a way back for you, um, when the press made such a big deal of not outing Malcolm Forbes. The man was dead, and they
Right.
still didn't want to report that the man was gay. And is not that bad now, but it's almost worse because at this point you've got an administration in place that not only is anti-gay, but they want trans erasure,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
right? Trans elimination. Okay,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't ever recall that going on. It was almost like a benign, such a small community that it wasn't worth their while. Now it's been made the centerpiece of the administration's hate agenda. I mean, it may be way up there and close to and trying to get rid of brown people in the country. Um, and to see it really seems like things are almost worse in a way. We've made progress person to person in our private life, but even again, when you wrote your book, there's still states that don't have equal protections,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
And
we got
in
the,
fact, we have states now pushing horrible anti-LGBTQ laws with and
absolutely.
trying to repeal marriage because
Yes,
they feel emboldened by Trump.
yes, and
And
that's what's so
meanwhile,
scary.
yeah, and you know, that's why these stories they don't look into them. Tom Cotton, when he got married, Senator Tom Cotton, like sort of overnight, nobody had ever heard of his girlfriend before, but as he was pursuing a Senate race, um, just overnight gets married. It's even reported in the Arkansas papers, right? That it's weird. There's something weird about it. He just pops up married. And this is what Tucker Carlson was getting at when he was angry about these warmongering senators. I don't know why he was connecting it to them being gay, but whatever. If it has him revealing things, so what? Um, Same with Tim Scott, right? He got engaged as he was pursuing his presidential run, which wasn't going to happen, but maybe he was going to be VP pick. Maybe he was going to have an administration, position. Of course, that never materialized because they probably know or whatever, who knows? Or, he's black and they don't want too many black people either, right? So, um, you've got Lindsey Graham. Continually, the stories keep coming up. And there's that whole story of Bernie Moreno, the Ohio MAGA senator, right? He is handpicked by J.D. Vance and Trump. And that whole story came up during the campaign. Got to give credit to the AP for actually breaking it. There was real evidence. And I think that's kind of what we have to do, like provide them with the evidence. But there was real evidence that he had been in some sort of, online space where he was making dates going way back. Do you remember that whole story, Joe?
Yes, and he claimed it was from his work email, and that's how it was found, I think, and he claimed it was the intern. And look,
Oh,
every
and then they brought forth the intern who, like, said, "Yeah, it was a joke. I just made a joke using his name or something." Like, what kind of a joke would an intern do like that? Like, be
Right.
fired.
oh, yeah, like, every gay person I know was like, "Oh, yeah." He had, uh, uh you know, email and thought and usually used it. This was his supposition, but most people are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you know how that happens. You think you're using the anonymous email, but instead you use your work email." That's as soon as I thought, "Oh, we've heard these stories before." It's like someone doing something, posting something online that they didn't mean to. That's
Yeah,
what
it
I
was
thought
like
too.
it was on
And
something
he
called
used to be
one-on-one
pro
Men for One-on-One Sex on Adult Friend Finder, and it said, "Hi, looking for."
Yeah,
I have to move my phone because it's right in front. Looking for young guys to have fun with while traveling, and it was when he was traveling that
yeah.
he posted this, and then, as you said, they said, "Oh, it was a joke by the intern." Why? What kind of a sick joke is that?
That reminds me of the who was the one who had the luggage lifter?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Reekers, right?
oh,
Oh,
Readers. Yeah, he went to redboy.com and he just needed someone to lift his luggage.
oh God, there were so many of those.
Oh my
We
God.
need and we
And
need
they're
an
200.
army of people like we had then, like you, Pam, like Mike
yeah.
Rogers, like others, like America Blog, right? We need that army of people who are doing this work. That's why I thought it was great that Keith Rogers was focusing, and Jennifer Welch and
Angie Pump
Angie
Sullivan.
Pump Sullivan at their I've Had It um, podcast. They were, they had their lesbian producer with them, and they were going through Marco Rubio, Mike Pence, Josh Hawley, just some of the evidence out there. I mean, that we remember, Marco Rubio, that curious arrest when he was 18 years old in a public park known for gay cruising, and he's arrested with a friend named Angel Barrios, who would be also arrested for having a gay webcam sex thing going on in a home that he owned. I mean, it's a little weird.
Well, I have to say, I love that podcast, and I love Keith doing it too because, I mean, we've talked about it forever, and and written about it and in conversations. I feel like it's so much better when it's out of our world. Like when you see two straight women who are
From
amazing.
Oklahoma, moms from Oklahoma.
Yes. And she's just like, "Oh, yeah, I know there's a park where a lot of guys go, and they go on the way home before." And I'm like, "Of course that happens. Of course that happens."
The other one knew 3 parks.
I just thought it was so great to see that. And look, the Supreme Court's coming back. One of the first cases they're going to have comes from the Alliance Defending Freedom, and it's to end conversion therapy. So Trump is nonstop attacking the transgender community, and now they're going to try and undo bans on conversion therapy because they want to kill kids. They're literally, of course they do. This is the same administration that sent ICE agents zip tie children, naked children, and haul them out of a building. Now they're going to go after conversion therapy, which has saved lives and will continue to save lives. They do not care about us. And that's why I go back to that New York Times article. And, the big get right now is, if you're a queer Republican, is to get invited to a Peter Thiel party. Like that coveted invitation in DC. And I'm like, "Oh, you people are disgusting." Like, what you have no concern for humanity. You have no concern except for your little power base. And guess what? Everyone, you may think they like you, they hate you. They all hate you. They make fun of you. They keep you around so they can pretend they like you. And they all fawn over, what's her name, Melania. She could give 2 fucks about any of them.
That's right.
Nope.
"Oh, he's so funny. He's really one of us." Yeah, listen to his language. He will throw us all under the bus, and he won't think twice about it. It's his Supreme Court that is going to take away our rights. Clarence Thomas is hinting at it. Clarence Thomas hinted at it in his concurrence in Dobbs. He's coming after our ability to have our own rights in this country. They mean it. They're not kidding. And again, I go back to, if that's who you are and you're condoning it as a Republican and you want to trample on our private lives and discuss our private life. I think a great example, and it's a straight person, is Ken Paxton, has spent decades vilifying the queer community and also going after women and taking away their rights. So I don't care who he's having sex with. But since he's having multiple affairs, yes, it is a news story in Texas, and it should be, because he's
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
these out gay people like Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, right, and Grinnell and the others, that the New York Times, like I said, like they do a story, as you said, like every 6 months to a year, focusing on them and letting them say Trump is pro-gay. They're protecting all the closeted ones. They're making sure, they keep all of that under wraps. They know everybody who is queer and who is working against our rights. And it infuriates me because Scott Bessent, he actually talked about in an interview with the Yale Alumni Magazine about how great it was that gays could now get married and how wonderful, it was. And now all over the country, people have rights. And he's working for an administration that's stripping those rights. And I guess they also make the closeted ones feel better about what they're doing because they're like, well, if they could be out and do it, I can do it. But there's also this thing going on in Virginia. And Pam, you've been looking into that too, where the lieutenant governor, this is all these Republicans running in Virginia are radical extremists. And, for the governor's race, lieutenant governor on down. And the lieutenant governor, John Reed, is gay. And there was this Tumblr page that Governor Glenn Youngkin tried to take him down over. He denied it was his. To tell the story and where it's gone now.
I mean, Youngkin asked him to step down in the spring, and he is still a live, breathing political candidate on stage. That's a new one. But he's just as anti-gay, anti-trans as any straight, Republican hypocrite. And it's hard to believe when I read it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. That see someone who's that anti-LGBTQ and he's gay. I mean, it just is so sick. And it gets back to the whole DC thing. I mean, they all know each other, right? What do you see when you go to CPAC, Mike?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
look at Matt Schlapp.
Yeah, right.
Matt Schlapp, the head of CPAC, right, revealed to be trying to get guys to sleep with him to the point of sexually harassing them. That one man accused him. Then we saw some other cases, right? I've always got a vibe from him, I have to tell you. I interviewed him many times at CPAC going back years ago. I always had that. And there's a whole gay sub current there, and
Yeah, I was
as
wondering if you pick up a
always is
vibe when you're there.
as I was always talked about, Grinder is always exploding in these places. But look, even the Republican convention. I mean, I can remember interviewing Aaron Schock on the floor
Huh.
of the Republican convention and asking him point blank how, as a gay man, he could vote for, um, you know, keeping Don't Ask, Don't Tell in place. He would vote against Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal. And that's when he was closeted. And he went on just the complete and total, how dare you ask me that question? How dare I ask you what question, right? Um, that's kind of what happens when you raise it. But until you raise it, there's actually this kind of, I mean, I can also remember going way back, kind of flirtation with that crazy uh, Florida congressman who remember had all the stuff going on with the pages.
Mark Foley.
Mark
Mark,
Foley, yeah. So yeah, it's all there. It's still happening, and this John Reed in Virginia. I mean, Joe had sent me the latest on that. Like the Tumblr page that he had gay male sexual stuff, whatever. But now it's being linked to this really racist stuff too, Nazi
not
stuff.
Nazi stuff, slave fetish
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, this guy he's a freak.
Yeah.
He's a
The American Journal News went into the Wayback Machine. And again, this became an issue because Glenn Youngkin, his team found it first. And they didn't want him on the ticket. I think they probably didn't want him on someone else was in the race and dropped out. So then Reed was going to get the nomination for lieutenant governor. And he he wouldn't drop out, said it's not mine. And here we are, like 4 weeks out. Early voting's underway in Virginia. But just a total creep and living, amongst those people. He's a MAGA hardcore. And this is who they are. They put them, like they're so creepy. They don't represent the rest of us. They actually hate the rest of us. They think we're the insane ones and the people that have problems because we believe in equality. We want our rights. It's so gross. And the Republicans in Virginia, the head of their ticket, Winsome Earl Sears, is as hardcore MAGA as you can get. They don't even talk to each other. Like, I think in the past 6 months, they've appeared together once. So their ticket is split. They don't even want to communicate with each other. And they all deserve each other. The people of the Commonwealth of Virginia do not deserve them, though. Because Al Hashmi, who is the state senator running for lieutenant governor, would be terrific. But honest to God, it's like one of these things. And you see this story and you're like, this is horrible. And I'm not really surprised if you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way some of these people try to cover themselves. So in that piece I wrote, earlier in the week, inside the gay sex scandal, or I forget what the actual title was, but anyway, it was trying to figure out who the Daily Mail was talking about because they mentioned they had a whole bunch of people they said were closeted and gay, and that this was roiling Republican circles in Washington and beyond. And they said they had interviewed people who had sex with, relationships with, one guy a 2-year relationship with a Midwestern congressman who's engaged now. And this guy is like, and I can't believe his voting record, this and that. So I just did some basic sleuthing with Google, and there was only one Midwest congressman who is engaged. There are some that are unmarried. There are some that are, divorced. But it was this Brian Steele, I guess it's Stiel, from Wisconsin. And I guess he was in Paul Ryan's original seat, the original seat Paul Ryan was in. And what's curious about him is, right, he is one of the 46 Republicans who voted for the Respect for Marriage Act, which, is a very high-profile vote and one that you'd be called out on if you were a closet case, right? And so he voted for that. But then on everything else that was less profile, less attention, he voted totally and consistently anti-LGBTQ, like the Equality Act, all kinds of, provisions that were put into defense bills, gay seniors, community centers. I mean, very, very curious, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting about that story, of course, is it took place at Butterworth. I think that was the place that they were. It was
Right.
talking about it at a place where, like, they had been seen in public, or where people would have seen the conversation. Maybe they thought it was a staffer. There was a really interesting, and I think you linked to it, conversation between Tim Miller from the Bulwark and former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. And that clip, watching it, I remember when it first popped up, I was like, oh, they know. They know. They were laughing. They were laughing like, I felt like they were laughing like, oh, yeah. I wonder which one it could be at first when I watched those two having their little kiki about it.
And Kinzinger said the person just got engaged. So he seemed to know who it was because this particular congressman got engaged that week that the Daily Mail piece came out. And the Daily Mail didn't say the person just got engaged.
No.
And a lot of people thought it was maybe Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania who just got engaged as well. But Pennsylvania is not the Midwest unless their geography is off.
He usually votes pro. He's like,
and he votes pro. He's consistently voted. He even was a lead on the Equality Act. So he's consistently voted pro queer and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then this way that we see a lot of the media refusing to go there and ask the question, right, on who these people are, or do further research, or see it as hypocrisy. That's where it's just not a story that's important to them.
Right. And it's
that's why I'm grateful for I've Had It podcast, because Jennifer Welch and Angie aren't afraid to go there, and they go in hot on their stuff. And I think the thing to note about that is not only is it entertaining and sometimes profane and out of, absolutely, it has to drive them right nuts, because it's a demographic that abandons us every single time, white women, and they own it.
Yeah.
They own it. And they're trying to bring that demographic along and saying, we're in a red place. We see this. We live this. We know what they are. We know who the hypocrites are. They know about evangelical Christianity and the hypocrisy of that. And when you meld that all together, it's good that we have allies out there doing the hard, heavy lifting, because we can't do it alone. We can't do it alone.
We have to get all this other information to them.
Yeah.
Like,
just feed it in and get it out.
I also, that my first thought when the Daily Mail said a Midwest member of Congress, before I even Googled anything, my first thought was Jason Smith of Missouri. And this is one that everybody's got to get on. I mean, this one is clear. This guy, and the only reason why the Daily Mail couldn't have been talking about him is he didn't get engaged. But this guy now sits on, I forget which committee it is. He's very powerful. He's the chair.
Yeah.
of is it one of the financial
I think it's
I think
ways.
it, Ways and Means, yeah. And he was best friends with Aaron Schock when they were in Congress together. Okay, he could be his best friend who's straight, but he went on the lavish trips with Aaron Schock, with their aides as well, including when they went on trips that other governments paid for. Then they went on private trips. There was one where they went to a gay-friendly resort town in Brazil with their aides. And one of Schock's aides, after Schock resigned, then went to work for Jason Smith, who then made him the not only his chief of staff, but he also is the chief of staff of the committee, on the committee, right? Of the Ways and Means Committee. And, there's all this stuff that the Hill had uncovered that clearly was pointing to that, this was some sort of, they were taking their gay aides with them. And Jason Smith voted against the Respect for Marriage Act. He voted against the Equality Act, against everything. And I mean, this guy, I feel like there should be signs outside his office. People should be protesting and saying, "When are you coming out of the closet?"
Well, and the other thing is, was it Matt Gaetz? Was that the one
Matt
that
Gaetz outed him.
outed him?
Then
Right?
when
Oh,
he
he
went
out
after Kevin
McCarthy.
McCarthy, but when Matt Gaetz went after Kevin McCarthy, um, then Gates went back at him and said, "You have no right to be talking to me because you're living a lie." I can read the comments, but I gotta snip up my phone again. Jason Smith says, "If my lips are moving, I'm lying." Well, you know what? If Jason Smith is breathing, he is living a lie. There might be another member of Congress who lives a lie there might not be another member of Congress who lives a lie every day more than Jason Smith. And Jason Smith knows exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, so does every member of the House Republican caucus, right?
Oh, crap.
So there's a good deal of projection in Jason Smith calling me a liar when it's Jason Smith who's literally living a lie. And I honestly pity him for that because, it wouldn't be something that I wouldn't live that way. I just would put it that way. Now, later, after he got pressured, he said, I wasn't trying to say he was gay. I mean, come on. It's clear. And this guy is a Missouri Republican. Missouri, where are you? Like, we need Missouri queers out
Where's their
at his.
press?
Where's the Missouri press?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing.
And he's totally MAGA, totally MAGA.
And don't think that doesn't set him up to be blackmailed. I mean, I think that's
Exactly.
one,
Like Lindsey Graham.
Yep. Security risk.
they probably went into him and said to Matt Gaetz, "Shut up. We need this guy there because we can use him. We can abuse him. We can hold this over him." And that's what happens with the closet. We know the closet is an insidious, dangerous place, but there are creepy people all over this town who are in the closet in positions of power, and it sets them up to be blackmailed because the worst thing that could happen. I mean, it's really so sick, but they think the worst thing that could happen to them is someone knows in the year 2025 that they're gay. But in the world they live in, that's true. And all those queers who are in that New York Times, who work with the Trump administration, can pretend otherwise. But those people are staying in the closet because they know the rest of them fucking hate them to their core.
Pam, talk a little bit about when, a lot of this was percolating years back, and we mentioned Marco Rubio and all of that, how it would eventually, bubble up into some of the press and get some attention. And that was way before we had all of this really, supercharged social media.
Oh, I mean, just think in 2007, that was the year YouTube started.
Mm.
Okay. So this is before that. It took a while through the blogs for stuff to bubble up. So a lot of the things were circulating between America blog, my blog, your work. And it took a while for the stuff to trickle out, but usually what trickled out was scandal.
Mhm.
Usually it was the politician caught at a rest stop. And I used to get those. They were coming in so fast and furious during that time because I don't know what it was about the closet that was driving these people to do incredibly risky things in states where they were going to be punished. And so those would get published in the media because it was an arrest.
Yeah.
So
Right,
those things
right.
were
We had a lot of
really close.
bathroom activity, and
Right.
of
We had a
course,
lot of bathroom activity,
and
including
we had
I'm forgetting the guy who said that he was scared. He thought he was being accosted by a black man. He was afraid of black people, but he went. That's why he went into the stall with the white cop. I mean,
right.
I mean,
Larry Craig,
seriously,
right? Larry
yeah,
Craig.
yeah. Oh, no, that was Larry Craig. Was
That
that's
was a whole other one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's another one. That's the classic case.
The
I am
classic
gay.
one.
I have never been gay. Conference with his wife,
That
staring at him.
interview with his wife,
Oh, it's
it
so
was
bad.
that was crazy, crazy times.
So
But I
crazy.
feel like it you're right, it got out more, but it could have been because they were caught in some sort of scandal that involved a criminal arrest or a
Exactly.
complaint or something. And these people, maybe now because they have apps that they can meet on, they don't have to go into a bathroom and
Yeah.
in a bathroom stall and risk arrest. And that's why Grindr keeps crashing whenever there's a big Republican event.
Yeah, but I heard that it was crashing at the Charlie Kirk Memorial in
Oh,
that
yeah, I'm
area.
sure.
I mean, that's I guess that's the improvement, right? That gives them a little more privacy, and they're still getting caught doing stupid things because I think that especially in DC, I think they are in that bubble where they feel that they're being protected by the media. Nobody's talking. Everybody's got their little code of silence. The out ones are out, and the closeted ones are out in private. But I think
But the idea
the
that there's
American
all
people need
this
to know, need to know.
the idea that there's all this sex going on at the Turning Point USA events with even I mean, this, Milo's alleging that Benny Johnson have sex with the students and whatever. I mean, while they're actually preaching, while Charlie Kirk is actually saying homosexuality is something punishable by death, he actually said about the kill the gays law in Uganda, right? Like, I don't support it, but it's a step in the right direction or something like that.
Yeah. Like, you mentioned CPAC. I used to go to CPAC. I started back in the early 2000s. Right? This is the gayest place I've ever been. The vibe was just so strong, and CPAC, you've seen it at the RNC, and it's
Oh, what, Joe? You're going in and out. Something I think may be happening to your sound. I don't know. It could be the wireless. I went off wireless and just do my thing. But yeah, CPAC is really. All of them are really gay. They don't, on some level, care about gay. There's a part of their mind that's libertarian, right? Part of the mindset of the Republican Party that you should do your own thing, but they have the Christian right. And those people are votes, and those people are, look at what look at what we saw yesterday with the FDA approving a generic abortion pill. That drove the religious right nuts, right? But Trump is feeding them with the anti-trans stuff. So that keeps them happy, right? We're always the thing to sort of placate them. And meanwhile, they know that the majority of Americans couldn't really care less about what's going on with trans people. So it cuts both ways because they don't really care either, but they care about the issue of abortion. So they'll push, the trans people, with the religious right, and keep that religious right in the fold.
It was just too bad that the Supreme Court is doing what it's doing. It's one thing when you're fighting the religious right. It's another when you don't know what those 6 votes are going to do.
Yeah. And, everything we're seeing, they're carving out exemptions for everything. They're saying, okay, you want to get married, fine, but people don't have to serve you. People don't have to, now we're going to see, even after they had ruled that gay and trans people were protected against discrimination in employment, they're going to start carving out the religious exemptions.
Mhm. So are we back to square one? I don't think we're quite back there, but I think the fight is ramping up again.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we have to ramp up, I think, you know, people everywhere just starting to go there and reveal the hypocrites. So
Mhm.
that's why I loved having both of you in this conversation. And Pam, I'm so glad to be able to have you on Substack Live. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
being
It's my
part of
first
this.
time on, and I'm going to expand my work because I'm so frustrated with this.
Yeah. And Joe, as always, thank you for everything you do too. And thanks to everybody for popping in and listening. And we'll, of course, be sharing this on the site as well. Thank you, Pam. Pam's House Blend, veteran, and Joe, of course, State of the States on Sirius XM Progress. Thanks a lot. See you all.
Thank you. Bye.